Hi, I'm back to finish up the very last segment of my highlights from my life. And if you listened already to the other four, which was they're labeled Gospel Show dash 1A and dash 1B, and then Gospel Show dot 2A and 2B, and this, because I just lived a long time, this is Gospel Show dash 2C. And if you've gotten this far, I commend you for reliving my life with me. Thank you so much, and here we go with the very last segment. Of course, I'm still alive, so there may be some more in the future, but right now, this will do it. Thank you again for tuning in to Life Lessons with Barbara. But let me take a minute to say what transpired, some of the things that transpired that 10 years between those two marriages. I got this job with IBM, which it was a really cool job too, and then I I was in a 5-year relationship with another IBMer who was originally in Chicago and relocated to Omaha, and his name is Jerry, and Jerry had a good heart, but in the meantime, my drinking had really progressed. And so Jerry proved to be a wonderful codependent. And those of you who know anything about the cycle of addiction, you know about codependence. He was a good one. Just what I needed to continue nursing my drinking habit. We hung out with about 5 other IBM couples. That included a Puerto Rican couple, from New York, John and Lisa, and the others were white. Not that that matters. And we all just hung out together. We played on IBM's sponsored softball team in the summers, and we were on the bowling team together in the winter. We got together to celebrate each other's birthdays and any other excuse we could come up with to get together. And considering my continued decline into alcohol dependence, that time left me with some fond memories. So, it hadn't got quite bad enough for me to not be able to appreciate, some of the good things that were happening in my life. But by this time, my drinking problem had gotten worse. And Jerry rarely drank and was a darn good codependent, like I said. And I knew I made his life a living hell sometimes. I knew that. Around the time that relationship ended, I changed jobs. I left IBM, not in a good way. I think there was some justification, but of course, my behavior was crazy. And I filed a discrimination complaint against my boss. And I got a nice little severance package, and I, left the company and lived off that while I pursued a career in real estate. And yeah, so I went to school, got my real estate license, and hung my shingle. Well, I joined a major company. I was their first Black salesperson and all that, but of course my timing was really horrible, and it was during the Reagan era, and I don't know if you remember when the interest rates skyrocketed. So that was the worst time in the world for anybody to go into real estate. But there I was. So I didn't work. Well, I worked hard and I worked a lot, And but I mean, you know, on a serious note, in the condition I was usually in, I shouldn't have been driving around by myself, let alone driving other people around. And when I think back on those times and you know, and how I was driving impaired and, you know, and working with people and, you know, and under the influence and stuff, I realized then I must have had a guardian angel that was watching over me, because I did some crazy stuff. And really the major consequences were all internal and up here. No DWI, no, none of that. But what was going on in my head and in my spirit was really, really sad. Anyway, eventually I just got tired of being responsible for myself and my daughter. But thank God my mother was really a huge support. And I know Shawnee was affected by my drinking, but my mother was a constant, a stable influence in her life, and I'm very, very grateful for that. With me wanting to, you know, to back off of responsibilities, you know, who do you suppose I looked at or looked towards? Why, it was Anthony, of course. I gravitated towards Anthony because he had been there for my mom, he had been there for me, and but mostly, and I knew that he cared for me, and that was important, of course. But mostly, by this time, what was more important, what was my priority, was that I knew he would never allow a shortage of booze to happen in our household. And that's what mattered to me. One thing I did manage to do through my real estate connections was to buy a larger house. And I moved my mom in because I wasn't too happy with what was happening in her neighborhood. And so we rented her house out. Then one day we get this knock on the door. It's just the three of us, me, my mom, and my daughter. Get this knock on the door, and lo and behold, there's my sister, Deborah. And she wasn't alone. She had a brand new baby boy. And his name was Savalas. And so we had a household of 5. So we had a full house. But it was good. And then, of course, Anthony and I got married. So we added him. But one thing I didn't expect was Anthony's ex-wife thought it would be a good idea to give him custody of their 2 children. So they moved in with us too. Oh my God. This full house and 3 kids that did not get along, all I could do was hide, find places to hide, like I used to do when I was a kid. Until I got sober. And that's a whole nother long story, a beautiful story that I might tell at another time. But suffice it to say, that was the huge and wonderful miracle that I was talking about in the previous tape. And it was just amazing. I made the decision to go to treatment. You know, there was a whole bunch of extenuating circumstances that drove me to it. But and I had my last drink on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Of course, it had to be a special day in 1982, 35 years ago. as of February of 2017. So anyway, oh my, I can't begin to tell you what a wonderful thing that was. Let's see. Anyway, by the time I got back from treatment, well, the deal was that Anthony was supposed to go in. And then we have this wonderful, sober, healthy family. But when I got out, we had been married only maybe about 2 or 3 months, or somewhere in there. And Anthony didn't follow through. He wasn't ready. And I knew that as long as I was still with him while he was drinking and really despising me and telling me how yucky I was as a sober person, there was just no way that I could, enjoy and, and get a real handle on my sobriety as long as he and I stayed together. So after about 6 months, we ended that relationship. But in those 3 months or so before we ended the relationship, I want to say at this moment that I am forever grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous for being there for me and helping me maintain my sobriety. As a matter of fact, and to be quite honest, I was miserable. Now that I was sober and Anthony wasn't, and we still had these 3 feuding kids to contend with. But eventually my mom, she got her own apartment. She got out of Dodge, and then Deborah, she reunited with her. Reunited with her birth family. So that was wonderful. So everybody was finding a place to be, and things were, where I could see a light at the end of the tunnel. But I just want to express at this point my gratitude for Alcoholics Anonymous and the people who guided me through and helped me hold on. And I gotta say, I love sobriety. I loved no longer being a slave to alcohol so much that when in my misery, I thought I saw suicide as an option before taking another drink. I was in a bad state, and I am very, very grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous for being there and getting me through that. So anyway, once the marriage ended and I could really enjoy the miracle of sobriety, I was on cloud number 99. I felt so free, hopeful, so full of life. And I have never, ever even thought about taking a drink since then. It's been the greatest gift that God has ever given me. Well, anyway, moving on. I did marry a 3rd time, and like they say, the 3rd time's a charm. I married an old friend, and that was John. And remember that Puerto Rican couple I mentioned that was in the IBM group Jerry and I hung out with? Well, it's that John that I married. And I had seen him for years and years. Every once in a while, he would leave a message on my answer machine. Back then, we had answer machines. And he would tell me about the birth of this baby or something like that. But so he would touch base, and he and Jerry were great friends. And so I would hear about what was happening in John's life through Jerry. But as far as seeing him and talking to him, years and years had gone by. But anyway, and of course, Jerry was instrumental in bringing us together. And this time we're both single. Well, he's almost single. Well, let me just stop here and talk a little bit about, what my life was like as a sober woman. Let me see. Where do I go? Oh, okay. Yeah. First of all, I grew up then. It's something about, alcohol that just kind of arrests your development. And so, I mean, you could be walking around with a 50-year-old body with a mind that, is still in adolescence. And so, I wasn't much better than that. So, you know, with a sober mind, I was able to, to be continuously rational and to grow up and to become more responsible and then to, to finish unfinished business. So one of the first things I did was go back to school and finish up that undergraduate degree in psychology, and ended up with, going for a degree in psychology because, my whole thing was I want to understand myself, let alone other people. So I was fascinated by, how the mind works and stuff. And then I went on because I was so grateful for my sobriety. I was drawn to become a counselor, and in Nebraska they called them a chemical dependency counselor. Anyway, whatever you call it, it's somebody who helps other people, overcome, addiction. And so I got certified as a counselor, and was working, had, a great job, and I got into community theater, and I never stopped singing. I sang in the choir even when I was drunk, or even, well, I would always be, I would be hungover, so all the time, just singing, and just as hungover as I could be. So I never did stop singing, but in sobriety, I joined. I was a part of some singing ensembles, singing ensembles, and one that was especially, special, and we became a real sisterhood. Was when I sang with the Uplift Singers, and gosh, I think we sang together for about 7 years or so, and and we just went through everything together, and so those women will always be very special to me. And I sang with someone who I felt should have gone on to be famous, and I was just really honored to be a backup singer for her for a couple of years. Dolores Matthews is her name. And life was good. I was writing poetry and all kinds of things. And then along came John, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But you know how life is. Everything can't be all roses. And so about a year before John came into my life, I was 9 years sober, so it was a couple of years before he came into my life. No, yeah, it was 5. But anyway, I was 9 years sober, a little more than 9 years sober when I lost my mom. Yeah, she was declining in health, and I forgot to say, when I called Mom from the airport in a panic, when I got to Washington, D.C., and, she told me to pray and all that. Well, back then, she had just gotten her GED and had gone back. And went to school to become a nurse. That's what she always wanted to be. I think she was an equivalent to a CNA, for a minute. But then she went back and got her LPN license and all of that. So by this time, by the time I come back home and, and I'm sober and stuff, she's working. She's traveled. She's, gone to Hawaii and places like that every year. The nurses would, they would go somewhere for a convention, and she had a very best friend that I called Aunt Audrey, and I loved her like as though she were my real aunt, and stuff. So, mom's life got good, and especially when she didn't have to worry about a crazy daughter. She got to see me sober for 9 years. She got to see that, that I was okay, that I was responsible. She saw me graduate from college. And she was, so, if I had to lose her at least, she got to see me when I was, when she could stop worrying about me. She knew I was going to be okay. And so, yeah, but I tell you, I can't even begin to describe the pain that I felt from losing her. And I take it back. I said I never thought about a drink, but I wanted some relief so badly. And so I think during that time, the idea of a drink did cross my mind. But what I did was I realized that would be such an insult, and it's to her memory for me to do something stupid like that. So it was a fleeting thought. It passed, but that hurt was so deep. But anyway, like I said, it was great consolation that she got to see me, sober and living well. And she got to see her granddaughter prosper and thrive as a gymnast. And she was a brilliant student. She definitely had her dad's brain. But I found out that, I ain't no slouch. I'm pretty sharp in the barn sale. So anyway, life was really, really good by the time John came into my life. And actually, let's see, I'll tell you how good. I was about 3 or 4 months away from getting my graduate degree when he came along, and my daughter Shawnee was away in Pennsylvania at school. She, in her freshman year in college. We didn't know it was going to be the first of many years in college, but she's a very learned person, and I'm very, very proud of her. But so, okay, let me get on track. At least I'm on the last page, so I'm almost done. My daughter was away at school, her first year in college, first year of many. Things were going good for me, but not as good for John. He was going through his second divorce. He had been married about 11 years, and they had 3 beautiful children between them. There were a lot of snafus and setbacks with the divorce process, and things really slowed down when he and I started seeing each other. But we hung in there, and it was during that time that we decided that we would get married and that we would relocate. And so once we made that decision, we hung in there until the divorce was finally final. And we had to go to North Carolina to get married so that we could come back to Omaha, because you had to be divorced 6 months before you could get married in Omaha. But in South Carolina, no, we got married in South Carolina, and because you could get married, in a day. You could get your license one day and marry the next. So that's what we did, and then we came back to Omaha to have a church wedding. But John had worked many, many years with IBM, and when he put in the request for a transfer, it happened so fast that he had to move up here already, but it could have worked the other way, where you know, it would have never come through, and we'd be stuck in Omaha. It would have been horrible. But anyway, let's see. Oh, okay. So we got married, and I'd say that was kind of like a match made in heaven. We were very happy together, and heaven lasted for me for 16 years. 16 years out of the 17 years that we were together. And together we did great. We traveled. We built a beautiful home. We, you know, we had great friends, and we had a beautiful life together for a long time. I call it the best extended period of my life. And I didn't mention this before, but John was not full Puerto Rican. He was half Puerto Rican and half German. His mom was German. So not only was I finally mature enough to experience real love, but I was also blessed with this huge family representing almost every color in the rainbow. And they were a very loving family. And as a matter of fact, I'm still in touch with most of them to this day. And we've been separated 8 or 9 for quite a while. And I loved his mother almost as much as I love my own mother. I didn't even realize how much I loved her until she died. And I suffered. It was, you know, it was hard. It was very hard when I lost his mother, when we lost his mother. And that's been just a few years ago. His dad is wonderful, and he's still my dad, you know, whether he likes it or not. He's really cool, and I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful, you know, for the members in his family that are still a part of my life, because I'm pretty orphaned now. You know, so anyway, let me just finish this up. Okay, so anyway, the marriage ended because now I know it was just time to end. I think both of us got kind of stagnant and stuck. And I won't go into details, but the way it ended, you know, was hurtful. It was hurtful, and it was really a rough time for me. I really struggled. I really struggled. But it did need to end. I think I was stuck and he was stuck. And, you know, and the reality is sometimes we just can't we can't travel the whole road, you know, necessarily with the people who mean a lot to us. Sometimes they have other things to do, and sometimes we have things that are in our destiny to do, and sometimes we just can't do it together. And so I think that's what happened. And let's see, I wanted to say, okay, it took me quite a while. It took me quite a while to get to this high road, because, like I said, you know, there was a lot of hurt and not so much anger. I wish I had more anger. I think maybe I wouldn't have suffered as much. But anyway, I finally got to the point of acceptance and forgiveness. But thank God for my friends. My best friend for over 60 years, Lois or Lady Mac McMorris. living down there in Kansas City. She got me through the worst of it. She helped me through the initial shock of it all. I don't know what I would have done without her. And then there was a newer friend, my North Carolina friend, and her name is Jackie, short for Jacqueline, and and she was right here where I could get hugs when I needed them, and it was just good to have a friend, a good friend who was nearby. And there were some other people, from the job and so forth, but and everybody kind of rallied around me, so that was good. And of course, my little big sister Beverly, back in DC, she was there dropping her pearls of wisdom on me. So I had support, and like I said, I don't know what I'd do without my friends. And let's see what I want to say. Oh, yeah. So, sometimes I'd head to DC. I remember the first Thanksgiving that John and I were together. I didn't know how I was going to get through it. So I jumped in my car and drove to DC and spent Thanksgiving with Beverly. And of course, I go to visit my daughter who, she was happily married, and I had my 2 grandbabies and stuff. Let's see. Yeah, the youngest one was only about 1, I think, when our marriage broke up. And so, of course, I get on the road and keep on heading north to New York and spend time with them. So I had places I could go to get the hugs I needed but the real healing came for me, and this was another very, very special blessing. And like I said, it helped me heal from the loss of my marriage, and it was the discovery of a Unity Church, and it was a former co-worker who sent me there. She was supposed to meet me there, but she didn't show up. I went to this church and I walked in, and I don't know, I just felt the love. I just felt it. It was like I had come home for the first time, and that was Unity Church. And my particular church is Unity Church of the Triangle, Unity of the Triangle. Not to be confused with the Unitarian Church. Unity is over 100 years old. It's non-denominational, and it's really based on the practices of prayer and meditation. It acknowledges and embraces all faiths, although it is a Christian-based church. And it's all inclusive, and we have a diverse community, all races represented in, well, maybe not all, but it's multicultural. And and it does it from final. I found a church home with like-minded people who are more spiritual than religious, and who are like-minded. When I walked into the bookstore, I had half of those books at my house. It was just amazing. And I mean, that was many years ago, and I still have the same love for this church that I had when I first walked in the doors. So let's see, I wrote something about that. It's an inclusive, diverse community that embraced me and helped me heal that broken heart. And from there, it has been a major inspiration and support for other endeavors. So there are individuals within that church who who inspired me and that's why I'm sitting here doing this radio show now, and why I have a business. I'm very active, and I have a zest for life, and I attribute it to a lot of things, but most definitely to what maintains me, and that is my church, Unity in the Triangle. And I hope to interview our senior minister, Newsom Holmes, one day soon. So keep tuning in. In the meantime, to kind of sum up my life and come up with a life lesson that encompasses everything that you've heard over this good grief, almost 3 hours. But anyway, I'd say the biggest life lesson I get out of all of this is that every single one of those events in my life helped me grow. There was a lesson in each one of them. And I concluded, right or wrong, that we come here to learn and grow in a certain way. It's predetermined what we'll seek in this life. And so each and every incident that occurs has meaning and something to teach us. It's not to punish us, but to make us stronger. It's not to have us compare ourselves with other people. Those are experiences designed just for us. Thank you for tuning in to Life Lessons with Barbara. And remember, you can watch what you just heard on my website, BEJ-Associates.com. And when you get there, please send me a question or a comment so I can get to know you and what you want to hear. So now here's Lady Mac again with After the Rain. To download, go to BEJ-Associates.com. Namaste.